You know how they say history repeats itself? Well, what if it wasn't just a saying? What if it was a formula? The analysis we're digging into today claims there's this powerful, almost mathematical pattern that has predicted the fall of superpowers for the last 500 years. It's pretty wild.
Think about it. 3 massive superpowers spanning 500 years of history, all collapsing in the exact same way. We're talking about the Spanish, the British, and the Soviet Union. The source we're looking at says they all followed an identical script to their downfall. Like literally the same playbook.
So if this pattern is so reliable, it kind of begs the big question, right? Is America next? Is the US walking down that exact same path, stage by stage, right now? That's what we're here to break down. Okay, so let's get into it. This isn't about one empire just having some bad luck. What we're looking at here is a recurring cycle, kind of like a blueprint for disaster that shows exactly how these massive powers come apart at the seams. Just look at this timeline. You've got the Spanish Empire at the absolute top of their game in the 1590s, and then poof, collapsed just 80 years later. Then the British Empire, peaking in 1914, gone in less than 40 years. And then, in our own lifetimes, the Soviet Union. It went from its peak power to just completely gone in a handful of years. The consistency here is, well, it's pretty shocking. All right, so when we say imperial collapse, what are we actually talking about? Because it's probably not what you think. According to this source, it doesn't start with some huge dramatic war. Nope, it starts quietly. It begins with economic exhaustion. It's like they're writing checks their economy can no longer cash, spreading themselves way too thin across the globe.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The source leads out a really clear 7-stage pattern. We're going to start by breaking down the first 5 stages, because these are the ones that every single one of these fallen empires followed to a T.
All right, here's the blueprint. It all kicks off with stage 1, military overextension. Super expensive, right? So to pay for all that, they slide into stage 2. They start messing with their own money, debasing their currency. This, of course, triggers stage 3, a crazy debt spiral. That leads right into stage 4, a loss of productive capacity, because the economy's getting weaker. And the result of that whole domino effect? Stage 5, society itself starts to break down. I know, this might sound kind of academic or abstract, but let's make it real. Let's see how this exact blueprint played out step by step in these 3 historical giants, Spain, Britain, and the USSR. And this is where it gets crazy. When you lay it all out, the parallels are just startling. Look at overextension. Spain was fighting wars on 4 continents. Britain got drained by 2 world wars. The Soviets tried to go toe-to-toe with US military spending. Then boom, currency debasement for all of them. That led to crippling debt. We're talking 4 bankruptcies for Spain. Then they all lost their productive capacity. And what came next? Social decay. It's the same 5-step story, just with different characters. And you know what the craziest part is? Every single one of them thought they were the exception. They thought, nah, the rules of history don't apply to us. We're different. But as the source points out, this pattern, it doesn't really care if you think you're special. And that brings us to today, because the analysis we're exploring here takes this exact same historical pattern and applies it directly to the United States. And the argument is, the US has already checked the box on the first 5 stages. So stage 1, the pattern always starts here, military overextension. And the source claims that, just like the empires of the past, America's global military footprint has become, well, unsustainable. And the evidence they point to? Get this, over 750 military bases spread across more than 80 countries. I mean, that's a global military presence that sounds an awful lot like Spain's deployments or Britain's old imperial network, doesn't it? All that spending has to be paid for somehow, which leads us right into stage 2, currency debasement. Now, back in the day, Spain just mixed cheaper copper into its silver coins. The source argues the modern version of that is just printing more money. And the result of that? A staggering 98% loss in the US dollar's purchasing power since 1971, when it was taken off the gold standard. So yeah, the method is a little more high-tech than mixing metals, but the outcome? A massively devalued currency that's identical to the pattern. So you've devalued the currency, and that leads, almost inevitably, to stage 3, the national debt spiral. This is that vicious cycle where you have to take on new debt just to pay the interest on the old debt. And the numbers are just mind-boggling. We're talking over $36 trillion. That's 120% of the entire US economy. This analysis puts that on the same scale as Britain's massive post-war debt crisis, or even Spain's series of bankruptcies. Next up is stage 4, and this one is absolutely crucial. It's the shift from being a country that makes things to a country that just buys things. It's the loss of productive capacity. And the source draws a really direct line here. You know how Spain got hooked on just importing everything with the silver from its colonies? Well, the argument is that the US has done the same thing, becoming totally dependent on foreign supply chains for everything and hollowing out its own ability to make stuff.
And that brings us to the fifth and final stage we've seen in the past empires. This is where, according to the source, things get really grim. We're talking about accelerating social decay, when the very fabric of a country starts to tear apart. And the analysis points to some pretty specific signs. Think about it. Trust in institutions is at an all-time low. We see rising crime and homelessness, a devastating drug crisis claiming over 100,000 lives a year, and of course, the political chaos and polarization, it feels like it's everywhere. According to this pattern, these are all the warning signs that flash right before the end.
Okay, so if the US really has passed through the first 5 stages, what does the pattern say comes next? Well, the source outlines 2 final stages, and the scary part, they're supposed to be incredibly fast.
First, you get stage 6, the loss of the world's reserve currency status. Basically, other countries stop trusting the dollar and start looking for alternatives. And that triggers stage 7, total collapse. And this is key. The source warns this isn't some slow, gentle decline. It's a sudden, rapid implosion. Think about the Soviet Union. It just vanished in about 900 days. Which leaves us with this final, kind of chilling thought from the whole analysis. The argument is that once a country goes through those first 5 stages, the sequence is locked in. It's not a possibility anymore, it's a certainty. The pattern is basically mathematical. So the only question left isn't if it's going to happen, but when.